Right, welcome back to the Age of Beauty podcast. We're so excited today to have Chelsea Kaz-Goethel with us. She's been a friend over the years, but also just a wealth of information as it comes to the nutrition and holistic health spaces. And so I want to start by introducing you, and then Jessica and I have several questions that we're curious about for today.
Sounds good.
So to start, Chelsea Kaz-Goethel is a board-certified functional nutritionist and energy mentor who helps women reconnect with their bodies, their health, and their hormones at every age and stage of life. Through her multidimensional approach, blending functional medicine, intuitive insight, and holistic healing, she guides clients toward greater energy, clarity, and overall vitality. As the founder of Kyla's Functional Wellness, I got it.
You got it.
She's passionate about empowering women to feel aligned, resilient, and deeply well from the inside out. So thank you so much for being here. Really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. And I have to say, the whole premise of Age of Beauty and learning to love yourself inside and outside, having this be a duo podcast is so fun. The biggest thing that popped into my mind when I was listening to the first episode was, we're learning how to love ourselves, but when you have a friend that you've done almost every age and stage of life with, you have such a beautiful reflection to lean into, or kind of a mirror to lean into, for how do they love you, right? And then how do you love them in those moments when you're like, I don't know what this is, but I'm crying on my birthday because that's a scary number, but she doesn't think that of me, right?
Yeah.
And I would never say that or think that about her. So what a cool way to blend together the experience and the education and the things that you can share with also the relationship that you have with each other as a reflection of what you want for yourselves.
That hits home.
Thank you.
I really feel that, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. I was cackling in the car.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely.
We really do want people to laugh. I mean, we want people to learn things.
Yes.
And we want people to, grow, and, we want to help people.
Yeah.
But we just really want to also be funny.
If it's not fun, what's the point? And I'm not saying everything is always the most fun. All the things we've navigated together over the years, and certainly all the things you've navigated, right? But if you're not laughing at least a little,
What's it all for?
What's it all for, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, what a great way to start off.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, can you kind of tell us your story, a little bit of your background, and what drew you to become a functional nutritionist and holistic health practitioner?
There you go. Yeah. So I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota. Sometimes people are like, you have an accent. I'm like, oh, it's 3 hours from here, guys. I don't think so. Super active kid, gymnast, black belt in karate, did pageants and sang and acted and did all of the things, right? Really just loved to be in the world. Tons of friends, super just loved it. We had 3 trampolines in our backyard. I have 1 trampoline now. We're falling a little short, but we're getting there. We're working on it. It's actually my 30th birthday present from my husband was a full-size trampoline.
That's
so we're aging in reverse over here.
Good job, Mark.
Trying. And I think as a kiddo, as a really active kid, I started to associate doing things and showing up for things and doing things outside of myself as success and good, and that's how we get love. And as I got into my teenage years, and definitely in my late teens and early 20s in college, I really started to live outside of myself and not listen to my body and not pay attention to what I needed, despite my mom being super holistic. The woman knows things. I don't know how she knew things in the 90s and 2000s. She would say things to me that I was like, you're crazy. And now I'm like, so we need to talk about inflammation. I've turned into my mother. Should have listened to her, 20 years ago. It would have made the journey easier. But I really kind of dissociated from how I felt, and that led to a lot of different symptoms. When I was, headed into college, even though I was gluten-free, I had a ton of gut issues, I had skin issues, I didn't sleep, I was anxious, my periods were all over the place. I took hormonal birth control to try to fix that, but that's, doesn't really fix it. And so when I got into my kind of early 20s, finished undergrad, didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, but didn't really also know who I was or how to connect with myself or how to just be with myself. And I was really lucky to have met my husband in that era. They say you can't love somebody else until you fully love yourself. I'm like, well, I did it a little bit backwards, and we've learned how to, both give and receive love fully. But through that connection and like kind of coming home to what does it mean to be like in love with somebody and be a partner with somebody, it helped me come home to like, what does it mean to take care of myself and love myself? And so after, years of kind of stumbling around and not feeling well and not really liking myself and just not really paying attention to myself and drinking a lot of wine and eating a lot of flaming hot Cheetos, I like kind of randomly ended up working at a chiropractic clinic when I was 24, 25 as a patient advocate. And there I was introduced to the world of like true holistic and functional health in a really organized way. I had seen bits of it over my life, but it never felt kind of tangible and doable. So when my mom would say, maybe you become a chiropractor or a nutritionist, I was like, I don't know. I've never seen an example of that feels right for me. And through that job, I became a health coach. And then I went on to do advanced clinical training in nutrition response testing, got my master's in nutrition. Like that kind of started me on the path. But the real catalyst for that was coming home to myself and taking care of myself and going, oh, if I, make some adjustments in how I eat and I work on my gut and I, really prioritize supplementing in an appropriate way, then I'm sleeping and now my energy's coming back and I feel like myself and I have regular cycles and my skin starts to clear up and that cough I had for 6 years is gone. And my husband was like, I think you have lung cancer. And I was like, maybe, but I don't know. I'm not going to go to the doctor because what are they going to do? Take out my lungs? He's like, okay, we'll circle back to that later, And so that was really like my own experience in it was the catalyst for really stepping into the world. And a lot of people say that in functional medicine. You either get into functional med or holistic medicine because you're really smart and yes, we have amazing tools in allopathic and Western medicine, and it's often not a complete way to care for yourself, right? You either know that or you yourself are sick and you're like, ooh, I got to do something different. And that's incredibly motivating, and it makes every client or patient interaction from there on out at least a little bit personal because you feel what that person is going through in not feeling well, physically, but also not feeling like themselves energetically and emotionally. So.
Yeah, we keep hearing that.
Yeah,
I feel like
we do.
Yeah, that I didn't feel well, and I dug in, and I had to figure this out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just having the passion for helping people. But I think a lot of it does come from kind of your own experience, and so
and it is interesting how we as young women feel that, or young girls feel that we have to be something different than what we just are. And it sounds like for you it showed up in kind of the physical realm of just doing a lot physically and being extremely active. For me it came in the form of grades and then like performing really well with jobs, and it seems like a subtle disconnect, but there's a lot of, at least for me, and I'm curious if you had this too, like the bar kind of just continues to move forward. And yet as women, we're so dynamic. Like we have times when we're on fire. You call it hot girl summer. And then other times where we just don't feel it. And that kind of expansion and contraction that we have with our own cycles and hormonal changes throughout the month is something that I know you're very well versed in, and very few talk about this idea of cycle syncing. So could you share a little bit about like what that is and maybe some things that would be helpful for us to keep in mind so we can be more graceful and gentle on ourselves as women?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of cycle syncing can be, food, movement, socializing, supplementing, sleeping, it can be super, super grand. And you could spend your entire life to the point of anxiety trying to cycle sync everything. Hello, I can't come to this podcast interview because I'm not ovulating today. You can do it, it's okay. But if you really zoom out, the idea of cycle syncing is so beautiful because it helps fill in a gap from when we were young and we were not taught about our cycles, right? No. I think part of the externalizing for women, we are dynamic, right? We are, to be a woman is such a gift. Yeah. We're not small men, but we're kind of, you're in health class and you're going to get your period and it's going to be probably terrible. And here's some tampons with paper applicators, like good luck, 14-year-old, like, no, thank you. We're not taught what it means to be a female because every day is different as a woman. Our hormones are a little different every single day of the month, but we're compared to a male who's the exact same every day. He's got the exact same pattern. on April 1st as he does on April 30th every year, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I meet women all the time in their 20s, 30s, 40s who don't even know truly where they're at in their cycle, or they don't know that day one of your period is actually day one of your cycle, even though we call it the period, like that's day one of your whole month-long cycle. Like they just are so disconnected, and it's not women's fault, right? There's no education around this. And so if you really just simply look at it, I love the seasons for cycle syncing, to really think about this. And this is great in Minnesota, right? We know the seasons. What are we in, like fake spring right now?
Fake spring, it
or whatever.
snowed yesterday.
But if we think about, just really simply, day one of your bleed, right? Day one of your period is day one of your cycle, and that's like your winter. I think, when you're bleeding, you're not your most social. You're not wearing a crop top and a feather boa and strutting around. I'm not, at least, right? Or I don't want to. But if we give that time to ourselves to be a little bit more winter, a little more introverted, to really focus on kind of grounding and warming foods and resting and like stretching, but not overexerting ourselves. And obviously we have families and jobs and things that do require us to show up. But even if we know, like, it's day two of my period and I really don't feel like doing this social thing, I could say no, but it's not, sometimes you kind of just got to do some things. But at least I know why I feel resistant to it, instead of, oh my gosh, I must hate my whole family because I don't want to go to this birthday party. I'm a terrible person. It's like, well, no, you're just in your hormonal winter. So you can at least recognize that instead of judge yourself for it, right?
Yeah.
You move out of winter and we move into spring. And that's this phase between the bleed and between when you ovulate, where your hormones start to rise and you start to feel more social. You start to feel more energetic. Estrogen is like doing her thing. That's this like, think about now, right? We're coming out of hibernation and we're like, ooh, we're going to set the trampoline back up. Like, when are we going to put the boat in the water, right? Not quite yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
We like lighter and fresher foods. We have more energy to do workouts that are maybe more intense. Like, we're kind of coming into our own, and you recognize like, wow, in that phase, like I got so much done on my business or on the book or with my family. Like, my kids were tired before I was that day. And it's like, wow, but that's so different than a week ago. Like, what was wrong with me a week ago versus now? Absolutely nothing. Your body's just doing something a little different. We ovulate right in the middle of our cycle around day, anywhere from 12 to 16, kind of depending on the length of the cycle. That's hot girl summer, right? Estrogen peaks. We ovulate. That's like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling frisky. Like, that's our, best time for higher intensity workouts or the most social we can be. I know women that truly only record podcast episodes or do like interviews around when they're ovulating, because they're like, I'm my best and my brightest and I feel how I want to feel. Yeah. So I'm out. I'm doing it, right? Crop top, feather boa, like, let's do this thing.
I love the feather boa.
I don't know where that comes from. Like, we'll get boas for the next recording. And think about summer, right? We're eating really fresh, really seasonal. We're going to the farmer's market. Like, a salad for breakfast, heck yeah, that feels amazing, right? Like, all the different colors and greens and proteins and like freshness. And then we transition into fall, and really a great example in Minnesota, fall, September, October, right? We're still going outside. We still have pretty good energy. We're like taking in the beauty of the world, and the leaves are changing, and oh my goodness. And then as we get in that last week, right? So, 28 days, let's say, so 21 to 28, our energy really starts to drop because our hormones are dropping. Our body's recognizing, I'm not a pregnant person. It's all good. My hormones are going to drop. I'm preparing to bleed. And so in late fall, that's where we start to come back into ourselves, right? We wind down the intensity of our exercise. We lean into warmer, more grounding foods, right? It's not always our most social time, and we honor that and we respect that. And if we, just gently think about syncing up our lives and our work and our time with our families, and I know women who, that their daughters know this now. So where their teenage daughters know, like, well, they're all synced up in the same household, right? Which
makes things easier for the women, harder for the men.
Absolutely. But they, themselves they're recognizing like, okay, we feel a little different around this time. Like, maybe this is the best day for like our girls' date that we wanted to go on, or this is the time when like we have a dedicated night every month where we do movies and snacks on the couch, and we just like cuddle up and get ready because we know that our bleeds are coming. And the bleed itself, everyone hates their period and it's scary and oh my gosh, and Aunt Flo, that biatch and whatever, but like that's actually a really beautiful kind of reset and release. So we learn to listen and kind of honor and not judge ourselves for not just being the smaller version of a man who does the same thing and shows up the exact same way every single day. That's not who we are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So I had a hysterectomy when I was 41. So I have no idea.
Yeah.
Is there a way, I mean, I guess maybe I'm just not very in tune at all with what's going on. I have a million things in my brain.
Yeah.
But is there a way for me to kind of understand this a little bit more for myself? Or should I just go off of my 14-year-old cycle and just assume that we're the same?
That might be a good way to go. Can I ask, do you still have your ovaries?
I do.
Okay, yes.
So I'm still ovulating and I still,
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would say, it does take a little bit of kind of slow down and listening or paying attention to just go, I don't have all of the big I don't have a bleed that really signals to me what's going on, but can I be mindful? And truly your 14-year-old cycle might be a really good place to start.
Okay.
Okay, I know when she's bleeding, so how's my energy right now? If I really checked in, do I feel a little bit more introverted and maybe a little bit more tired right now? Yeah, okay, I do. All right, now we're mid-cycle for her, right? We're 2 weeks out from that day one, and she's got so much energy, I don't even know what to do. And oh yeah, I feel that in myself as well. And then as you kind of taper into fall, and see if that rings true for you.
Okay.
This comes up a lot with women that are in, perimenopause or menopause as well, where it's well, I don't have a cycle, or my cycle's all over the place. And this gets a little bit, this is a little folksy, a little witchy, but some women will use the cycles of the moon as well. That goes back to folksy, way back when days where a lot of women's cycles still to this day are synced up with the new moon or with the full moon. And so you could also kind of look at a calendar and go, all right, based on how do I feel now? Where are we with that? All right, we're coming up on a full moon and I'm finding, I'm a little bit more tired. Okay. Maybe this would kind of be my bleed time. And then as you head towards the new moon and you kind of feel that energy, all right, this would kind of be my ovulation time. And you can use that. It doesn't mean you have to dance under the full moon naked. You can do that if you want to. I know people that do, and I love that for them. It's just a whole nother level of, connection with the earth. That's fabulous. But those can be little markers to check in on, right? And our iPhones will tell us what stage of the moon is it. So it's pretty easy info to access as well to kind of pay attention to.
No, it's really interesting because, the more we learn about, like you said, with perimenopause and menopause and the cycles and all these things, and sometimes I'm well, I don't know.
Yeah. And I want to know, right? I'm sure that can sometimes feel like, oh, I wish I knew, right? Everyone's talking about cycle syncing and I don't know where I am in my cycle, and oh my gosh, and I had to have it. It's that can start its own conversation, right? But there are some subtle and simple things that you can kind of check in on or track that will help you sync up with that for sure.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I have a lot of friends who are in the same boat, so I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, well, and it's perimenopause is such a wild time because we want to be creatures of habit. We want to be really, routine and ritualistic and habitual. And perimenopause kind of forces us to go, ooh, how do I still love myself even if what I thought was coming in my body didn't quite come, or what I was expecting, there's a lot of relearning there and a lot of repatterning. And it kind of forces us into a state of self-love, even though we have to be flexible. And we don't always love surprises, right? Yeah. Or I've finally went 6 months without my period. Maybe I'm going to make it to a year this time, and then it comes back. It's this is not the aging in reverse I was trying to do. Hold on. And so, just finding gentle ways to lean into listening and kind of trusting and caring for your body can make some of those unknowns a little less daunting, for sure.
Yeah, that's really good.
That is really good. So talking about perimenopause, menopause, what differs? What starts to change from what you just shared with normal hormonal changes throughout the month? Yeah. And then how can we best support ourselves through that process as women?
Yeah. So physiologically or kind of biologically, right, when we're in our active menstruating years, our ovaries are our primary producers of estrogen and progesterone. Those are our reproductive hormones, right? Estrogen is kind of an energetic that helps build the lining of our uterus. Progesterone makes the uterus the safest place possible if there were to be a baby there, progestation hormone. So we go through these cycles of estrogen, ovulate, progesterone, either pregnancy or bleed. And they're pretty rhythmic and pretty balanced from month to month, ideally, right? We deal with a lot of hormonal imbalance in the US for sure. When we go through or enter perimenopause, essentially what's happening is our ovaries are I'm thinking about retiring. I've been doing this thing for a while. I'm kind of over it. I'm exiting the phase of my life where it would really be safe and appropriate for me to carry and birth another child and then have to raise a human, right? That takes a lot of time and energy and effort, and maybe I'm good on that, right? But our ovaries are kind of the classic example of the woman who's I think I'm ready to retire, and her boss is can you give me 3 to 5 more years though? you know. We'll let
Good
you
analogy. No.
we'll let you go like part-time sort of, and then you can sort of do like a consulting thing, and then you can just do like special projects, and then you can retire. And she's like, okay, so I've done this external validation, people pleasing thing my whole life, so okay, yeah, sure, all right. And her like bosses are our hypothalamus and our pituitary glands in our brain. That's what tells our ovaries what to do from month to month to month.
Okay.
So as our ovaries are getting ready for retirement, we have our adrenal glands, the little glands that sit on top of our kidneys. We hear a lot about adrenal fatigue and adrenal exhaustion and these things these days, right? And our adrenals are our stress response kind of adaptability gland, and they do that job beautifully throughout our lives. When our ovaries are like, I'm checking out, our adrenals actually take over for making the smaller amount, but still some estrogen and progesterone that we need in perimenopause and menopause. The hard part is because our adrenals are our stress response organ, right? So we spend our whole lives momming and working and taxi cabbing and cooking and traveling and doing everything for everybody outside of us that is perceived as really quite stressful for our internal environment. And when we get to perimenopause, usually our adrenal glands are like, how dare you ask me to do anything else, right? It's like burned out mom at the end of the day on day 2 of her bleed, and the kids are like, ooh, I need 47 cupcakes for tomorrow. And you're like, okay, where did you come from? I don't remember inviting you into this space. How did you get in my bathroom, right? What's going on? And so the best thing that we can do is, as early as possible, start to take care of that stress response and resilience system, those adrenal glands, and then our pituitary and our hypothalamus. So my favorite way I've ever heard this described when it comes to taking care of the adrenals, right? Those are the glands that make adrenaline and cortisol. They help us kick up and respond to stressors. They also help us come down and recover from stress. And most of us are never fully getting into that recovery, right? We were like, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I can do this thing, rest and digest. I don't know, I've got too much to do. My favorite analogy for the adrenals and taking care of them is, how would you take care of a toddler, right? A toddler that's throwing a fit, is clearly overtired, hungry, needs to go to the bathroom, whatever it is. So really leaning into caring for that, getting enough rest, like setting boundaries, nurturing and nourishing yourself. Like, even if it feels a little selfish, especially as a mom, I hear this all the time from women. They're like, but my kids have to eat. I'm like, but how hungry can you be? And then like still, you know, at some point you also have to feed yourself, or you yourself have to rest, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first. But how would you take care of a 2 or 3 year old throwing a fit, right? Like, that's kind of your body. And even though it's like, wait, that means I have to take care of myself. I have to rest and eat and hydrate and think about how I move my body, or, ooh, that's really the best thing that we can do.
Yeah.
And the earlier the better, but any time is a great time to start really taking care of that system.
I feel like just understanding what you shared around adrenals and hormonal fluctuations throughout the month, for me, it offers helpful perspective, because I know in the past, you know, I've got these expectations of what I need to be doing, whether it's a deadline at work or running the kids home or like scheduling the doctor's, whatever, like life is complex. And so when I'm in my hot girl summer, I can do those things, but when I'm not, I would caffeinate, you know, run back through Starbucks and like, so my adrenals could maybe get me there, sort of.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I can see how that would get burnt out, and you would not be used to allowing yourself those, you know, winters and those moments of just grace to do less.
Absolutely.
So if nothing else, like, hopefully a takeaway for you as a listener is just that it's okay to listen to your body, and as it is changing, to just honor that and take the rest you need, or do the lighter exercise, knowing full well that it's a season.
Yeah.
And I also just love how as women we're synced up with broader universal movement of expansion and contraction. It happens in everything. I love the analogy of change of seasons you used, but everything has an element of expansion and contraction, tides and moon phases and all of it. And so it really is like a source of power, I think, in who we are as women. And yet we don't view it as such, because either we don't understand it, or we're kind of made fun of, oh, don't mess with her, she's bitch today. You know, like, I'm spicy, leave her alone.
Yep.
So that's super helpful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So I think our next topic is on HRT, kind of what
Yeah.
is your views? And I think we are learning, I feel like every time we have somebody on, it's a little bit different view
Yeah.
of, because I think there's a lot of options out there. And I think there's probably a lot of different options that are great for other people, or depending on where they are in their stage of perimenopause or menopause, or, you know, what kind of hormone imbalances they have, if any, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So hormone replacement therapy, right? HRT. I will primarily, if I'm going to kind of nudge somebody in that direction, point them in the direction of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
So B-HRT. It's all just alphabet soup at this point. Because when we enter perimenopause, our adrenal glands are often like, I actually quit from my job. Apparently, it's a thing people do now. I don't know. It's like it's a youthful thing to do, is just like slowly slink away from your desk and not come back. I don't know exactly how it works. I work for myself. We're not quiet quitting. Because our adrenals have often already kind of abandoned ship, right? They're so exhausted that when we're like, hey, could you also make some estrogen and progesterone and like throw a little testosterone in there? And they're like, I can't even get out of bed. There's no amount of coffee actually that's going to get me the energy that I need today. It can be really, really appropriate. It's kind of like anything supplemental. It's meant to be supplemental to reconnecting with yourself and putting in those foundations of caring for yourself as well, right? Now that's easier said than done in modern America, where we are expected to be on top of it and fast and productive and like thriving on 5 to 6 hours of sleep. But the dream scene for me with bioidentical hormones is that you are using that stability that you get from utilizing those, right? Your mood starts to come back around, your energy comes back, you feel more like yourself, you feel, you know, less achy and creaky and terrible and, you know, all the things. But you use that kind of boost to then lay the foundations that you've really probably needed all along, right? The same way we're not taught about our hormonal cycles. There was no class even in my physiology major in college that was like, hey, if you're going to work in healthcare and you're going to work with women, here's what you teach them about their hormones, and here's how you teach them to live a life that helps them care for that. And that means prioritizing rest and boundaries and nourishment and protein and moving in appropriate ways that might be different from day to day, and all, you know, supplements they might need, all of these different things. When we get into that, when we get to that point of perimenopause, those foundations are there and your body has an easier time with the transition. We missed that part, right? So now in that transition, when we use bioidenticals, ideally with a provider, I don't prescribe bioidenticals, but I know a handful of really wonderful providers here who test, and it's very personalized and it's very meant for this particular woman. It's not some kind of blanket protocol. When you use those, you start to feel more energetic and like yourself. Then you go, all right, I got to get my shit together here. I have to. It doesn't matter if I have 2 kids or 6 kids or 2 cats that apparently don't sleep through the night anymore, whatever. I have to figure out how to prioritize taking care of myself, because I might be 30 or 45 or 55 or however old, but this way of living outside of myself, disconnected from my body, pretending that just more Starbucks and more intermittent fasting and more HIIT classes are going to take care of it, like that's actually not sustainable. There's no amount of hormone replacement or supplement or meds or caffeine or creatine or whatever it is that can make up for not having those foundations in place, right? So it's supplemental to a lifestyle that's correct for you, right? And it's not selfish to prioritize building that lifestyle. That's truly the best thing we can do, because when we're taking care of ourselves, then we get to take care of others. We get to show up for the people in our lives, for our kids, for our community, for aging women who are losing their marbles because they don't look the way they used to look and they don't feel the way they used to feel, right? You get to show up for those people that you love and for your mission in the correct way, the way you want to, in a satisfying, like soul fulfilling way when you take care of yourself. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And so with the bioidentical hormones, there would be a different replacement for like estradiol. It would be
It's just like a bioidentical, so like a naturally sourced form of that hormone. There's a lot of misinformation, I would say, about hormone replacement therapy. There was a big study done, oh gosh, how many years now? 20-ish years ago. They did a massive study on hormone replacement therapy, and they were using a synthetic form of estrogen, and they actually had to stop the study in the middle of it because breast cancer went through the roof in this study population. But it was a synthetic form of estrogen. And so we know that synthetic estrogens and xenoestrogens and things can really disrupt our hormones. And so when they Bioidentical is going to use like a natural replacement for it that your body understands how to use, instead of use as something that's kind of foreign and potentially toxic that leads to the progression of things we obviously don't want.
Yeah. And I have heard a lot about that study too, and that it was the information was misused and it wasn't read properly.
It was super,
and it really like went off the deep end.
Yeah.
But now we're all like, everybody's understanding that study was not a good study, and that, yes, it's okay to supplement estrogen, and oh, by the way, it's really good for you to supplement estrogen, and you know,
absolutely, if you need to, 100%. That study was the perfect example of like, let's take tiny sound bites from this study, this preliminary data from this study even, and like blow it up and make it headlines. We see that all the time with health stuff, right? Red meat will kill you, eggs will kill you, if you fast you'll die, if you don't fast you'll die. Like coconut oil is the cure for everything. Coconut oil is actually just you digging your own grave. It's like, okay. Wow, like no wonder.
Things change all the time. Yes,
and
now you can't have seed oil, but you can have black seed oil.
Right.
It's
oh my gosh, right? So that does help, remind us why it does sometimes feel so daunting and overwhelming to take care of ourselves, right?
Because, and to find good information and where is it coming from, and all of those things. So
absolutely.
So that's really interesting on the Bioidentical. And if you were interested in that, you would see who do you go to for the Bioidentical hormones?
Yeah, so there are a set of, and they're not like a posse that, but there are different providers around the Twin Cities that specialize in Bioidentical. So different nurse practitioners that are trained in hormones, or different OBGYNs that are trained in like that particular type. So
you would just kind of ask for that. You would say, hey, I'm looking for, a Bioidentical hormone. I want to see if I'm a good candidate for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of how you would go.
If you were to approach your own, your gynecologist or your women's doctor that you have a relationship with and said, hey, I'm interested in hormone replacement therapy, I want to go the Bioidentical route, they may or may not be trained, or they may or may not specialize in that. And if they don't, then you go, all right, I'm going to go find a different provider that does.
It is kind of tough, I feel like most like just general practitioners, general OBs are kind of like, not my thing. I don't know anything about that. I don't do that.
And honestly, more power to them for going, this isn't my thing, so I'm not going to do it inappropriately, versus, I'm an expert in that, let's do this thing. And then you're on inappropriate doses of the three, or the wrong forms, or whatever it may be, and things actually get worse. So it can be challenging, right? But it's, I have a couple of clinics I really like. I can definitely send you the names of those so you can share those. But like it's its own specialty for sure.
And one thing that's been really helpful for me, so I see you and our kids see you, and it's been so helpful. One thing you've set me up with is, as I'm entering perimenopause, starting to have some changes with symptoms and such, something to support my adrenals, and then also like an adaptogenic form of hormone through supplementation that I have noticed changes. I came to you with specific things like energy level and anxiety and wondering about this hormonal change. And I like that you've bridged a gap for me that might have been a more drastic jump had I not gotten that level of support.
Absolutely.
So that's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For keeping our family healthy.
Working with families is the most fun, especially like moms and, teenage boys are their own animal, but moms and teenage daughters, to like see the mirrored patterns and like get to look at like, you teenager are the way you are because of how your mom is. And when we support you now, like you get to have the best parts of that, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really lovely.
It is cool.
Yeah.
And then we're also curious about, as in entering perimenopause, menopause, for struggling with some weight loss resistance.
Yeah.
What seem like changes to metabolism, but maybe aren't. Like, how do we support ourselves through that? Or what information might be helpful to know?
Yeah, I think the most jarring thing with perimenopause and menopause and body composition is that what used to work for us often does not work anymore. And so it's like, wait a second, I feel like I'm gaining weight, my clothes don't fit the same way, I'm a different shape.
Yeah, especially here.
Especially
I feel like, right?
here.
Yeah, the midsection is like a big. Not for me for sure, but I feel like
across the board.
Yeah,
across the board, absolutely, 100%. And there's reasons for that, right? But it's so trippy to just go, well, wait a second. In my 20s or my 30s, if I felt fluffy, I would just eat a little less, move a little more, and that was that, right? More salads, less McDonald's. I don't know. I'm not eating McDonald's personally, but that's fine. No shade, and everything will go back to the way that it used to go. And our body is not the same, right? Which is actually a really beautiful, cool gift, right? Like when you talk about this kind of cyclical nature of the female body, like we throughout the month are cyclical, but throughout our lives, right? Like our entire life is a dedication to different eras and honoring those eras and honoring those seasons. And I really wish our world was more set up for honoring that. We'll keep working on it, right?
Yep.
Like women, we're doing it. But that really is the hardest part, is the old things that used to work for me, doing more and eating less actually aren't going to cut it right now. And a big part of that comes back to absolutely like metabolic changes, right? Our metabolic rate slows down a little bit. Our muscle mass might start to dip a little bit. Our muscle mass is really metabolically active tissue. So when we have a little less, we burn a little less, right? Like things like that. That's all, normal parts of aging. That's just what is happening biochemically. But another big piece of it is that those adrenal glands, right? Those cortisol, adrenaline glands are like, excuse me, this is not working for me. And this midsection body fat situation or kind of weight gain situation is directly correlated to kind of dysregulation in adrenaline and cortisol, which we talked to, we work with the adrenals on that, and then blood sugar and insulin as well. And cortisol and blood sugar, they're like besties for the resties, but also frenemies. They have a really close relationship. And so around perimenopause and menopause, instead of doing more and eating less, we have to focus on like doing appropriately. And that changes, that's different. It's not HIIT classes every day of the month. It's not, I force myself out of bed at 5 a.m. no matter what for my, Peloton hour with whatever coach I love. It's what really truly is supportive for me right now. It might not be an ounce of cardio. It might be weights a couple times a week and walks, right? But it's about doing what's appropriate. And it's about eating in a way that's actually synced up with what your body needs. And that means like, okay, I'm going to focus on protein, right? Protein is like the thing right now. I say it, people are rolling their eyes and pulling their hair out. Like, one more bitch tells me to eat more protein, I'm going to lose my mind. And I'm like, I know. Me too. I understand, right?
I understand. Because it takes all day thinking about how many is in every single thing.
How's and what's and who's it and where is it, right? But it's like, okay, I am going to come back and I'm going to eat enough protein. Protein is the literal building block of life, right? Like it is. People are like, you need protein to build muscle. I'm like, you also need protein to, make blood cells and skin cells and hair cells and liver cells and like every cell in your body that's turning over constantly, right? Like we have a whole new set of blood every 90 days. We have a whole new digestive tract every 2 to 5 days, right? Which then links into how we get the nutrients from the food. We're working so damn hard to eat well. If I have one more salad, I'm going to lose my mind. Somebody just give me some cake, whatever, right? But we're putting that protein in so that we're getting optimal cellular turnover and repair. We're focusing on not just like what we eat as well, but how we eat. Did I spend the last 25 years shoving in half a peanut butter sandwich my kid didn't eat while running out the door? So I'm in fight or flight. I'm not in rest and digest, but I'm forcing my body to try to digest food anyway. So am I really getting anything out of it other than probably some carbs and a little bit of fuel, like that kind of thing, right? So it's what are you eating? How are you eating? And you're eating for blood sugar stability, and you're eating for stress relief, honestly. You're not eating because I have to and oh my God and da-da-da-da-da. You're eating in a way that feels actually nourishing so that you're off of this blood sugar, cortisol, adrenaline nightmare roller coaster, which makes us feel crazy, right? Because there are days on that roller coaster where doing more and eating less is like, oh, I feel less puffy today. This is perfect. And then the next day you're like, I have to go pants shopping. What the hell happened here? Like what's going on? Because it is so up and down. So really it's so much about coming back to the basics, but we just are not taught the basics. We're not taught to prioritize those either.
Is your suggestion, just to be a little bit more specific, everything I'm hearing is 1 gram of protein per ounce of body weight. So I'm 140 pounds. My goal is 140 grams of protein a day. Yeah,
I'd say like 0.8 to 1, right? You can kind of vary that depending on your activity level a little bit. On those higher weight days, you're going to do more proteins. You want to make sure you get protein in within 30 minutes of that, that lifting and that kind of thing. But about that is really what we're seeing. And even, when we start to learn things that are slightly different than the conventional recommendations or the, food pyramid or my plate or whatever, there's always this kind of fringe moment where we're like, okay, from a functional nutrition, functional medicine standpoint, which is, a little bit on the edge from Western and allopathic, we're realizing we need more protein. And then it takes a while for the rest of the world to catch up. And like the rest of the world is actually catching up with that one as well. So I get less, like laser dagger eyes from the traditional med world when I talk about protein now. And they're like, oh, she's right. Okay.
Yeah. It's good to know because I listen to a lot of like fitness information and so I listen to Mind Pump. It's huge podcast, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And they do have a lot of functional knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's great. I do feel like I'm getting that, and they even sponsor some supplements and, you know, things like Prolong, I think, you know, things like that. And but then I'm wondering, okay, these are fitness guys and their goal is to build muscle and have great aesthetics, and that's how they help people, you know, look better, feel better. But then is this recommendation, you know, the same as functional holistic? So it's interesting to hear that it is the same.
Yeah,
that's good to know that it's good information and that I'm following the right thing, and you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is different and it is hard. It's hard to eat that much protein in a day.
It can absolutely.
And it gets a lot easier as you do it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And after you've tracked and you realize 2 eggs is not a high protein breakfast.
It is not.
And
12 grams of protein just is not going to cut it.
It's not when you need 40 for every meal.
No. Well, you know, one of the best things we can do, you know, when we talk about protein, and I know this is kind of on our list of things we wanted to discuss today, is to really start your day with the best kind of like breaking your fast with the best proteins that you can get in that moment, right? And the hard part with breakfast, I think, for people is they go, well, it has to be eggs or bacon or sausage or, you know, whatever. It has to be breakfast foods. It absolutely does not have to be breakfast foods. It can be anything that is going to bring you protein. I have a good friend. On Sundays, she makes like hamburger patties that she knows have like 25. I mean, they're like big hamburger patties. It's like a dinner plate patty, but that's fine. And this works really well for her, right? She knows there's about 25 grams of protein in each one. She has that for breakfast. Maybe add some cheese, or she does some like chia seed lemon water to get a little bit more fiber in. So she knows right out of the gate she's getting, 35 grams of protein before she even does anything else.
Wow.
If we circle back to that blood sugar stability, that's the best way that we can stabilize our blood sugar. Like, if as a collective we decided that dessert foods were no longer breakfast foods, right? Like sweetened oatmeal and cereals and muffins and pancakes and things, right? Like, yes, as a treat, absolutely enjoy those things. I love pancakes, right? Ice cream and pancakes are like my favorite food. It's terrible as a nutritionist. I'm like, oh, salad makes me want to poke my eyes out, but like, could I get some ice cream? My husband's like, you are the weirdest nutritionist. How did this happen? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. But if we collectively decided like those sweet things are absolutely to be enjoyed after we've done our protein and after we have, made sure to get some other nutrient dense foods in, collectively our, pre-diabetes rate wouldn't be 1 out of 3.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like the best way to get your protein in is by starting off in the morning with a big dose, and then you're not trying to catch up the rest of the day.
And you're not on a blood sugar roller coaster where you're going, oh, damn it, I didn't eat enough protein this morning. No, I'm mad at myself. How dare I? Well, now I'm going to chug this protein shake because I'm in the car and I'm on the go, but like that feels weird to shove into my body when I'm driving around and I'm not really processing that very well. And my tummy's rumbly. And then lunchtime comes and you're like, well, I'm actually not really hungry because my gut feels weird from that weird protein shake that I chugged. And then, oh my gosh, when I'm trying to eat, but I feel weird about it. And then by the time we get to dinner, you're trying to make dinner for your family and you're like, okay, we're having mac and cheese. Like, I don't even care because I'm hangry. And like, I don't know.
I'm getting 100 grams in before I go to bed.
No, absolutely not. I won't sleep
I'll start
tonight
again tomorrow.
No, it's just not possible. And now I've failed and now I hate myself and now I'm going to just be an osteoporosis old lady with a broken hip. And it's like, but if you
spiral.
Right? If you started the day with like 35, 40 grams of protein, that
you get on
that gets a lot easier.
So I've always been a little intimidated by the quantity of protein that I should consume in order to do that. If I don't want to have a hamburger patty for breakfast,
I was just thinking that there is no way Casey's gonna eat that.
Hell no,
there is just
no way,
not happening.
Okay, so what are other good ways to get that in? If you like, I still enjoy meat. And I like to have a lot of like plants in my diet.
More variety.
And I'm totally good with protein shakes too. So what thoughts do you have on like getting it outside of just meat sources?
Yeah, absolutely. Eggs of course are lovely. I love like, do an egg bake or do some egg cupcakes on like a Sunday. So they're just ready to go. And like, okay, there's 14 eggs in that thing. If I eat a certain, I can roughly estimate like how many eggs are in this. Okay, there's 6 grams of protein per egg. So if I eat 3 egg cups, that's 18 grams. Okay, cool. And I added some other protein to that. So I'm actually really at about 25. Great, beautiful. So we love that. Dairy as well, if people tolerate it, or dairy alternatives, different, yogurts or cottage cheeses or things like that. A cup of you know, like a nice, not low fat, but, you know, kind of middle ground or higher fat Greek yogurt is like 20 to 25 grams of protein, right? So you can either do that and make that kind of a, you know, a staple for you, where you're doing that with maybe some different nuts or seeds or some berries or something to give yourself variety, and then there you go. It's like, oh, that was really lovely. Or put that in a smoothie, or make it fun and make a smoothie bowl that you put cute stuff on top of and post on Instagram, right? I'm a millennial. Like, we're still, you know, eating with our phones, you know, it's fine. And protein shakes absolutely can be a really good option, right? I think if we are constantly overriding sitting down and truly breaking our fast the way that we're meant to, which is like sitting with a plate of food and enjoying it and being grateful for it and tasting it and chewing it, if we're only ever doing protein shakes, and I get into this habit as well, where I'm like, oh, it's protein shake day. Oh, it's protein butter coffee day. Oh, I haven't sat down to eat breakfast at a table in a really long time. That's not good. I mean, it's not good or bad, right? But if we're, you know, using that when we know, like, my general way of being is actually sitting and eating a meal, but there are days where that's just not possible. One thing I do recommend for people when they're using, you know, protein powder as a source, whether it's in a shake or like, I love a, you know, coffee, a couple tablespoons of butter, scoop of protein powder, and you blend that up, and it's this like beautiful frothy latte, little coffee, obviously it's fabulous, right? And it's like, oh, there's 20 grams of protein and, you know, like ample fat in there to really keep me going. When we're using like liquid protein sources, to also chew something with that is really, really helpful. So even if that's like, I used to hate breakfast. So my like life hack when I started training myself to eat breakfast was, while I was making a smoothie, I would eat baby carrots, because I love baby carrots. I ate so many carrots as a child that I was orange, right? It does happen. It's a real thing. Your pediatrician will laugh at you if you bring your child in for being orange, because it's fine.
I did that to my kid.
Why do they eat so many baby carrots?
Aiden turned orange too.
Absolutely. Love that. Like, cheers to the orange kiddo club. But I would grab, you know, like have, you know, a handful of carrots. Not you have to eat 20, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, but a handful of carrots or like some almonds. So I'm chewing something while I'm making that smoothie, or while I'm, you know, kind of prepping and getting ready to go, because chewing is what starts our digestion, right? The enzymes in the saliva in our mouth, that signals to our stomach as we swallow, like, hey guys, it's time to start making hydrochloric acid. It's time to start making those other enzymes. So we're actually in a more receptive state for all the goodness that's in our smoothie, because we can put 25 grams of protein and amazing organic Greek yogurt and chia seeds and organic berries and like the greens powder that was made by God into that smoothie. But if we're not in a receptive digestive state, we don't get all the goodness out of it. So just a little bit of chewing can be really helpful. Yeah,
that's really interesting.
Okay, can we talk a minute about mitochondrial health?
Yeah.
I hear a lot about it. Some of the women I work with, one of their biggest struggles is, but my energy, like, it's just not what it used to be. I still have all this stuff that I want and need to be doing outside of just offering more grace when we need it and leaning in when we've got the energy. What can you share about mitochondrial function and how we can support ourselves with having good energy as we go through this mid stage of life?
Absolutely. So
Kizzy's ready to geek out right now.
Yeah, let's go.
This stuff.
I get like an eye twitch from most of my clients when they're like, we're going to talk about mitochondria, and they're having like biology class PTSD from back in the day. They're like, oh my God, is there an exam on this? Like, there should be, honestly. No. So mitochondria, right? Powerhouse of our cells. Every cell in our body has mitochondria except for red blood cells. Some cells have 10, some cells have thousands, right? And so mitochondria really are like the core of our well-being. And their ultimate job is to take the food that we eat, right? Like the smoothie that you're eating, and to go through this like hundreds of, not thousands of step process, and to turn that into ATP, which is our cellular energy currency.
Okay.
That's what fuels everything else in our body, right? Every other function, how our cellular turnover, how we digest, how our immune system works. Mitochondria are also the little organelles that make our hormones, right? So if our mitochondria are struggling, yes, our adrenal glands are super important in how we make our hormones, but if their mitochondria are tired, it's like a double whammy, right? Okay. And so they really are the core, and they power everything in our body, everything that we do. And I think about it kind of like our battery. And it's really interesting, you know, when I test and when I work with people, we kind of assess mitochondrial function. And usually what I'll pick up on, if I'm to show someone a battery and go, you know, like your phone battery used to have those little bars, those little notches, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
You're 100%, you're 80, you're 50, you know, like where would you put yourself on this battery range? And it's almost always like perfectly matched. Even if someone has not started to feel tired, like I need a nap tired, but they're like, I know I'm just not functioning optimally, right? Yeah. And part of that is we ask our bodies to do everything all the time. We ask our bodies to run on empty. We ask our bodies to, do what we need them to do, and they really can to this, like, this thing is incredible, but I need you to do what you need to do without all of the resources, right? Because we don't have a life that's set up for really resourcing our bodies well. And so when it comes to mitochondria, it's, it does really come back to the basics, but it comes back to, like, nutrient density is really important, right? Essential fatty acids, omega-3s are a huge part of what help the mitochondria function. CoQ10, magnesium, are other minerals, and hydration, like fluid.
Drink water, Jessica.
I'm terrible.
She's
I'm
bad.
the world's worst. I'll take a sip.
That's okay. Well, we'll work on that.
Good.
Find other forms of hydration that you enjoy drinking.
Yeah.
That's not a martini. You can put your water in a martini glass, and we'll go from there.
There we go.
I don't know.
That would be fun.
I'm assuming you're a martini person.
I
'cause
had
you're
a
cute.
pineapple martini last
Okay.
night. It's like it must be all over my face.
It's a vibe. Well, you're like a cute, you like look good with a martini glass person. I can't do martini glasses because I move too much and I just spill it everywhere, right? So I need like a lid on a martini.
A kitty cup.
Like a sippy
Here we
cup.
go.
Exactly.
With a
Exactly.
straw.
Right. Does that woman have a martini in a sippy cup?
The nutritionist.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
She's all over the place. Yes. So hydration and minerals are like really, really critically important because, again, we can take in really good stuff, good food, good supplements, but we need fluid and we need electrolytes to move that throughout our body as well, to get the magnesium or other trace minerals or electrolytes to our mitochondria so they have the fuel, right? Those minerals and trace minerals are the little within the mitochondria. There's this little like kind of conveyor belt, and the thing that makes the conveyor belt move are minerals and trace minerals and electrolytes. And to get those into our mitochondria, we need water, we need fluid, right? And it can be tea or lemon water or electrolytes or other forms of hydration, right? But we need fluid to do that. And now some of our hydration does come from our food. That is kind of a newer thing we're studying with the science of hydration, where it's like maybe you're not drinking 150 ounces of water a day, but if you're really good about like fresh water full foods, right, fruits and veggies and things like that, you are getting water and hydration.
Well, that's
from those
how I'm
things
not
as
dead.
well. That's how you're not dead. Yeah. That is how you're here today. Absolutely. But
So
it really,
how do you know if your mitochondria is doing well or not? Was it just I'm tired, or can you have it tested, or how do you know?
There isn't a great lab test for mitochondrial function.
Okay.
Maybe someday there will be. In my practice, we use muscle testing. That's one of my main kind of feedback or biofeedback tools that I use with people. And so we can kind of tap into the like bioenergetics of the body it's based in physics and quantum physics to get feedback from the system on how those mitochondria are doing. From a feeling perspective, it's that feeling of like, again, like I'm kind of tired and I need a nap, and I take a nap and I don't really feel fully charged. Or even after a night of sleep, I'm kind of like, and that can tie into nervous system and cortisol and stress and all those things as well. Or it's that like I'm starting to see little changes in a bunch of areas. So if we think about the classic life progression, our mitochondrial function does decrease as we age because our bodies are like, I've been doing this for a hot minute here, like I'm a little tired. But if we think about some of the like symptoms or signs of aging, right? Like, oh, my hair is a little dull, or my skin looks a little different, or like I don't feel quite as strong, or my digestion is suddenly not quite as peppy as it used to be, or whatever. Maybe it's those little subtle signs. Like maybe I'm not exhausted and tired, but I can just sort of tell that my system is a little bit, or like I'm a little foggy, recalling things isn't quite as sharp. Why did I walk into this room, right? And again, those can be linked to a lot of other systems, nervous system, stress response system, hormones, but all of those systems are reliant on our mitochondria. So they kind of go hand in hand, right?
So you've done the muscle testing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every
Can we
time.
talk about that?
Yeah. Every time that I bring the kids to you, I see you, whether it's in person or virtual, which still blows my mind.
Same.
She's so quick at it.
Yeah.
And I don't still fully understand it. So I'd love to hear how you do it.
Yeah. So muscle testing is a form of biofeedback. So there's manual muscle testing or applied kinesiology that has a lot of different names. And there are also like biofeedback machines and tools and things you can use. I like people and human interaction, so I use manual muscle testing. And really what we're doing is using like your body's reflexes, absolutely, to tell us like, is this thing we're introducing into your field supportive of you, or not supportive of you? Does this support your cellular function and healing, or does it detract from it, right? So when we use we have YouTube, this is lovely. Oh my God.
If you're listening, Casey just stuck her arm out.
Yes, right?
Test me, baby.
Absolutely.
Test me, Chills.
So when we're muscle testing, I use an arm, right? And so if I push down on your arm and things are good, you can hold your arm up, and it really doesn't matter. She's kind of at like parallel to the ground, holding your arm out. It really doesn't matter how hard I push. It will just stay there. Like you can match it. It's like, yeah, I work a little harder, hold my arm up, cool. And that tells us that like the state that you're in right now, you're like, I got this. I'm imbalanced bioenergetically, quantum field there's so much science to this that our human brains are actually like, I don't know, but okay, I'm gonna go with it. I'm good right now, right? Yeah. Now, if we were to introduce something to your system, let's say we went and grabbed, I don't know, a food that was hard for you to digest, or a supplement that might be the best supplement in the world, but isn't right for you, right? If we put that into your field when we go and we test, instead of being able to hold that muscle out, your muscle will unlock. And what that tells us is your body goes, okay, energetically, bioenergetically, I've been overwhelmed and I can no longer put my energy into holding my arm up because who cares about my arm? I got to go try to sort out what to do about this thing. I need to send my energy there to deal with that. Yeah. If we introduce something into the field that's supportive of you, right? The right supplemental support or solution, or a good food, or even, something from an emotional or energetic perspective that's really, really supportive of you, right? If we put your book on you, you'd be like, oh,
I love this.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Right? Versus if we, if someone wrote you a piece of hate mail and we put that in your field, right? Which is really fascinating to explore the emotions and energetics with muscle testing. That's actually...
Your arm would just go down?
Absolutely. Because
just like a piece of paper.
Yeah, because everything has a frequency, right? So they study this with water, and emotions are really the first realm in which research on muscle testing has started to come out. It's been out for a while, but with water, if you speak to the exact same water, right, from the same sink and the same, same glass, if you speak to it lovingly or you speak to it not lovingly, and then you put it under a microscope, the cellular makeup of it changes, right? Because everything has energy. I know.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
I love this stuff.
Yes. Well, and the reason that muscle testing from a distance works is because like once we're connected, right, through it's quantum entanglement through the quantum field, what they study with water is if you take that same water, right, exact same water, same sink, same vessel, and you put it on polar opposite ends of the earth, it still has a connection. If you like what you do to one can also happen to the other. So it stays connected through this, again, we call it the quantum field, right? It's quantum physics because it's the quantum. It's like we can't see it with our human eyes, but there are people smarter than I am that are studying this and figuring this out. And so we really get to find out like what's supportive of you, whether we're physically together or at a distance, or what might not be. Yeah. And the thing I love most about it, I know we've talked about this before, is, they're all the best supplements in the world, right? I'm guilty of this. You scroll on Instagram and 3 days later, a box shows up at your house and you're like, what did I order? Oh yeah, that really cool new blend of this, that, or the other thing, this mineral, that mushroom, this adaptogen, this skincare thing, right? Where like there's so many things and they might be amazing, but they might not be right for our own bodies. Yeah. And that is a hit to the ego oftentimes, I think. So like, but the marketing is really cute. Or like, all my friends take it and they love it and oh my gosh. And then we take it and either we don't feel anything or we feel worse because it wasn't right for us, right? That bio-individuality is so important.
And that's what I've really loved about working with you, both for myself and our daughter. So Elle was on a whole like ADHD gut rebuild protocol, which was great, served her well. But then as we were reintroducing foods, we really needed to like optimize our supplements again. And we're able to test every single thing she's on with you. And it's like, yep, these few things are okay. They're not really going to help that much. Feel free to take them, but you're not benefiting a ton. You need these 5 things and these 6. She doesn't need anymore. And that's been invaluable. It's not only saved us money, but she's doing great right now. I feel good, and it's just nice to know that when you are buying something, because supplements aren't cheap, especially when you're replenishing like every month or two, like it adds up. But to know that the investment in working with you is actually saving us and giving us our health, it's like freaking awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I love the work, and I still don't fully understand the muscle testing thing, even though you explained it so well, but you just run through it so quickly. It's like hard to conceptualize, but I know it works, and that's what matters.
So
absolutely. That's why you're the expert.
Yep.
We talked a little too fast, but it's fine. We'll work on it.
Well, and speaking of supplements, we were going to talk about that, right? Oh, never mind.
Oh, no, go
We're
right
gonna
ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, for perimenopause and menopause, are there any blanket supplements, or do you feel like it really is individualized, or is it like, you know what, every woman in their 40s probably needs this?
Yeah, I would say every woman in their 40s and before and beyond probably needs to pay attention to minerals, right? Minerals, electrolytes, magnesium is a big one, right? That's really popular right now. Most people are on some form of magnesium. It's just so good for so many things: our brain and our gut and our muscles and our heart and our mitochondria, right? All of those things. Vitamin D is a really important one, especially up here. And vitamin D is fat soluble, so we do store vitamin D, and so you want to get your vitamin D levels checked. That's something that anybody's primary care doc should be able to add to annual labs to make sure. What's wild is that from a conventional perspective, the like normal range is anything like above 30. 30 is considered like functionally very low. It's like non-optimal.
It's not
definitely.
optimal,
Yeah, definitely. But most of us in Minnesota are pretty safe to add in some vitamin D to our lives,
absolutely.
right? Probiotics, depending on gut health, things like that are important. Fish oils and omega-3s. Like if you really look at how often am I eating, like high quality seafood or fish or salmon or whatever it may be, like probably not very often.
She can't do it.
Maybe I'm gonna...
I take krill oil.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'm going to supplement that, right? Because we don't want to get so out of range where we have so many omega-6s and not enough omega-3s, and then we end up in a higher inflammatory state that then impacts our joints and our hormones and our hair and all of those things, right? So I would say those are the big ones, and if you can get your doc to, and most primary doctors should do this, run a full metabolic panel, really look at your CBC or your complete blood count, so you just make sure everything is good there as a baseline. And if they'll add some nutrients to it as well, so there's some other minerals and things they can test for, that kind of lets you know. In general, with supplements, if you're like, I want to take a multivitamin and a multimineral and a fish oil and a probiotic, that's usually not going to cause any harm. Most things, our bodies are really intelligent, and so most things, it's not like, you take a multivitamin, you're digging you're shortening your life. Although there are some headlines that say that, like, how did we get here? But what's important too is to remember that every supplement we take, every food that we eat, everything that we ingest takes energy to break down and utilize. And so I always recommend for people, like, yes, if we're muscle testing, let's make sure that grocery bag full of supplements that you take every day, or that's in your cupboard, or you like hide in the closet in your office so your husband doesn't see them, because like, why do you have so many supplements? What's going on here? What are these boxes that keep showing up in the mail? Like, oh, don't mind me, it's fine. Let's make sure those things are right for you, so you're not overwhelming your body. It might not be a bad product, but it might not be the right fit for your body. And so, when we introduce supplements as well, oftentimes, we go one or two at a time. Put something in, see how you feel with that. You might feel the same, you might feel a little better, you might feel a little different, whatever it is, but take time to kind of assess what that means for you. And I found this for myself, and I find it for clients as well. They'll hit a tipping point sometimes, or they're like, okay, I'm on my, 4 things that we've talked about and kind of developed. I also added in this and that and this and that and this other thing, because marketing is fun and cute, and all my friends are doing this and that. And then I kind of feel more tired. And it's like, okay, so what's likely happening is we're actually pulling energy from the system to try to break down and utilize all of those.
Right.
So even though it feels counterintuitive to do less support for energy, let's really prioritize what kind of support we're using.
In many ways, this is the first time that I've heard this conversation in this context, because there's so much that suggests that supplements are fine. They're not going to do any harm. And while that can be true, as long as we're not having too much fat soluble supplementation, if it does require your body more energy to digest it at a time in our lives where we're trying to get as much energy as possible, then it's not helping. It's hurting.
Absolutely.
And so it is important to look at all of it and consider for our own bodies what's best.
Oh, we're going to talk about hair. Yes.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not the only person in perimenopause who is dealing with, hair loss or fragile hair or less hair. I also have autoimmune, so I know that's a big cause. I have all of the indications for like hair loss. I have like low ferritin, low vitamin D, no matter how much D I take. Autoimmune. Also hereditary, hair loss. My mom has no hair, like real bad. And so I have all the risk factors. That's why I have this big head. If you're watching, head of extensions, it's it's a lot.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my why for all of this, you know, to help me feel good. But it hasn't mattered, like no matter what I have taken, it hasn't, you know. But I know a lot of people have just more mild. They just are realizing, gosh, I just feel like my hair's thinner as I get older. Things like that. I know it's very common. So what is your suggestion when people come to you?
Yeah, so there's, you know, all the classic, you know, we're not getting enough protein, or you know, maybe I'm going to try biotin or collagen or things like that. Or, you know, we're always suspicious of thyroid when it comes to hair, right? And
I have that too.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about
I'm telling you, I have all of the checks.
Absolutely. What's kind of, you know, if we bring it back to hormones, we have our ovaries and our adrenals. The kind of third organ or gland in that trifecta is our thyroid. Those three are like the kids of the hormonal system. The pituitary and hypothalamus in our brain are like the parents. And so if one of those three throughout our lives is doing something dumb, it's like the teenager that won't clean their room, right? You're like screaming at them to do what they need to do, and the other ones kind of get ignored. And so it can create this imbalance. And that's where, when we look through a functional medicine lens, we're looking at the system as a whole. It's not just the adrenals. It's, well, how do the adrenals relate to the pituitary? What does that mean to the ovaries? Well, how about the thyroid, right? It's all very, very connected. But thyroid is classic for hair loss, of course, and as is, you know, autoimmune thyroid, and then, you know, just nutrient deficiencies over the course of our life. But what a lot of those things come back to is actually our gut health as well, right? So I can take all the best supplements in the world and eat 150 grams of protein and do all of these things, but if I can't process those when they get into my body, if there's something going on from an overgrowth perspective or a toxin perspective or a, you know, biofilm perspective in my gut, I don't even get the good stuff out of my food. And if I'm constantly eating in a state of fight or flight instead of rest and digest, even if my gut's in a pretty good spot, I'm not getting all of my nutrients either. So it's a complex issue for sure, and it's hard because it's so visible. And so I'll meet people that have, you know, all sorts of cardiovascular concerns or hormonal issues or, you know, detoxification challenges or, you know, things that I'm like, that's the most serious thing we need to take care of. And they're like, I actually just need my hair to grow back. I'm like, okay,
Fix that.
all right. Okay, so when I say hair growth, I actually mean, you know, whole body healing, but we're going to call it hair growth because that's what's most important to you. But also we are going to fix your gut and your liver and make sure your cardiovascular system and hormonal system is okay for your hair. It's all for your hair.
It's all for
your hair. Like, yeah. Which is totally valid, right? I've only ever once in my life gone through a cycle of like hair loss where I was like, oh no. And I absolutely panicked.
Yeah,
I
know, because your hair is gorgeous.
Thank you. My crowning glory is my hair, honestly. So I get that.
Yeah.
And it's generally a sign of like something else that's going on internally, usually related to the gut and or hormones, right? And then and nutrient density, and it all kind of crosses over for sure. You know, and so that usually means like, okay, if I can't figure out my gut health on my own, I'm probably going to find somebody to help me with that, right? And like I myself have a team of people that help me manage this situation over here because we can't do it alone. We're not meant to do it alone.
Right. So definitely finding somebody and working on your gut health and working on having your thyroid tested.
Yes. Yeah.
And probably just like a panel for anything else
too. Nutrients as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Full thyroid panel is really important because your TSH might look normal, but there may be other things going on behind the scenes. And then that's that terrible kind of medical gaslighting, dismissive situation where you're like, okay, but my hair is falling out and I'm tired. And, you know, my hands and toes are cold. And I'm like, but your TSH looks great. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Am I losing my mind?
No, absolutely.
This is a real experience I'm having.
And just the other coin of the normal is not optimal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people for sure that, you know, the thyroid range is pretty wide.
Yep.
And if mine is teetering down here, it says it's normal, but I don't feel well unless it's way up here.
Yeah.
I feel great up here, and I do not feel well down here.
And it's such a bio individualized thing, and that's where, you know, if you circle all the way back around to, you know, aging gracefully and learning to love ourselves at every age and every stage. Part of loving ourselves and loving our bodies is learning to listen to our bodies, learning to kind of honor and respect what it's telling us, and then unfortunately sometimes really having to advocate for ourselves when we go, yeah, it might look normal on paper, but I know it's not normal in here. Don't tell me this is in my head. This is not. Maybe I'm a little anxious and maybe I'm a little depressed some days. We're living in, you know, 2025 here. Like I have my ups and downs, but like I know there's something that's not right. So we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna find out what's truly going on here.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few questions we like to ask at the end of every episode.
Sounds
And
good.
so the first one I want to ask is, what's your favorite beauty routine or ritual for yourself that supports you either looking or feeling your best on the outside or in?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the infrared sauna. So I have a portable infrared sauna. I plop in my living room at night, so I'm still hanging out with my husband and the cats while I'm taking care of myself. My head sticks out of it. People think it's hilarious. But I'm a big fan of that from a like mitochondrial anti-inflammatory perspective. But then to pair that with like a nice calm shower after the fact, because you're sweaty and lovely and disgusting, and then implementing some skincare after that, right? So I have like body oil I really like. I have a couple of nice facial products I really use, and kind of making it this like ritual of self-care and like dedicated time. Sometimes that means I spend 20 minutes in the sauna and 3 minutes in the shower and 3 minutes on this, and I'm like, but I still was dedicated to taking care of myself. Other times it's significantly longer than that, right? But fitting that in is really lovely.
I love that.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
It does.
Okay, question number 2. What is one thing you wish you would have shared with your younger self about aging?
Yeah. Well, first I would go back to me on my 22nd birthday, who was singing karaoke Taylor Swift 22 at Blarney in Dinkytown and crying because she thought that 22 was old. Oh, buddy. Just like give her a hug, let her know it all gets better. Like, this ain't it, and it won't be it. Don't worry. But I would really love for my younger self to know, like, the best thing you can do is learn to like foster a relationship with your body, right? Learning to trust your body and signaling to your body that it can trust you. Whether that's how you talk to it, how you move it, how you feed it, how you go like, I know today was kind of a shit show, but I promise, like, I'm here for you. I'm still listening to you. Thank you for doing what you did for me today. I'm going to do my best for you tomorrow or next week, or when the kids are out of the house, whatever it may be, right? But fostering that relationship and that trust with your body, or my body.
Love that.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a fun one.
Yeah.
Okay, what would be like a quirk or an annoying habit or something that like your husband or somebody close to you would say that you have?
I read this out loud to Mark last night, and he was like, "Oh,
We got a list,
and then he went silent. He was like, "I'm not getting involved in that." I was like,
He's smart.
No ideas, none, no, and he just like walked out of the room. I was like, "Okay, so this is me." Reflecting on this, whenever I go to the bathroom, whether number 1, number 2, whatever it is, I always thank my body for like doing its job. Like, thank you for, and you don't have to be a nerd like I am, but I'm like, thank you kidneys for filtering my blood and getting rid of these waste products. That's so cool. Or like, thank you digestive tract for processing my food and helping me get what I need out of it to fuel my life and doing what you need to do, right? So like, that's my kind of weird quirky thing. I'm like, thank you, I love you, good job.
You do a lot in the bathroom.
I do. Yeah.
She showed up here and I received a notification on Instagram that she commented on my post. I'm like, get out of the bathroom when you're posting on Instagram.
Because I didn't want to do it while I was driving, right? We're working on better driving habits as a millennial, okay?
I love hearing these quirks.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing so vulnerably and openly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Well, Chelsea, this has been awesome. I just really appreciate your time, your knowledge. It's amazing. So where can our listeners find you and information about Kyla's Wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm chelsea.kaz.goethel, which I'm sure we'll
put in the
post
show
that,
notes. Yep.
To spell that is its own small nightmare, as well as finding Kyla's Wellness is kylaswellness.com, so we'll put that there as well. Information about me, my background, my services, how to book and everything is there for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this, Chelsea.
Yeah, such
really
a gift.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, ladies. So much fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Age of Beauty podcast. And if you want to find us, you can find Casey at Casey Kindle. It's CASIEKINDL on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find me at Jessica Brees on Instagram. If you would like to hit the follow button on this podcast, then you will always get the next episode uploaded in a notification so you won't miss it. You can find us on YouTube, and if you would want to share this awesome episode with friends or family that you know could benefit from that, that would be great. And lastly, you can leave us a review and you can check the 5 stars, hopefully 5, and leave us a review. It makes a huge difference for people to be able to find us. And as a new podcast, the reviews go a really long way. So if you would like to share one, that would be great. We read each one, and the last we read one this morning and did a little dance.
We were dancing.
A beautiful review. So we appreciate that so much. So thanks so much, and bye.
Bye. Thank you.